just jump into it?
Ominously, though.
Ominously, I feel like it would almost be better to have cold opens than it just starts with talking. I mean, this could be that cold open that we've already started and this is it.
Wow.
And then we'd have to, people are like, who are we've just caught them in the middle of a conversation. Who are these people? And then
it hits us with the boop, 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 boop.
And then it hits them with the little strings and everything. Now people will really know, they just got the music when they started recording this episode. Welcome back to the Dark Archive. I'm Gavin.
I'm Chris.
And I'm Shiloh.
And we're back with another week. This is episode 5. Crank through it. 5 for me.
I was going to say, I don't think I've done 5 of these yet.
This is the 3rd with this gang. If you haven't checked out any other episodes, check out all the past ones. We've been talking about some funky, strange, dark topics, but all bangers, I'd say. It's been going well enough so far that you guys haven't completely left me. And hopefully the listeners haven't either. We'll just get right into it. This week, so with us, we've talked about King Tut and, the curse of King Tut. We had also talked about DB Cooper, hijacker, and then also without you guys, sorry, we've also talked about the night witches, which were female pilots in Germany. We also talked about satanic panic last week, but this week it's a pretty different topic. What are you laughing at already, Chris?
What'd you say, satanic panic?
Yeah, satanic panic.
That gave me a little chuckle.
In the 80s, it's like when everyone was like, oh, people are sacrificing kids to Satan and stuff.
I'll have to listen to the episode.
You'll have to listen to it. It's actually a pretty dark episode. There's a lot of abuse, so it's not a laughing matter.
Oh, okay. No, never.
But this episode actually was Chris's idea.
Yeah.
So, what made you come up with this? What makes you interested?
Well,
I asked you guys, what kind of stuff do you want to talk about? And almost immediately,
I did hit you with it fast.
You did.
You were like, what weird things do you want to talk about? And I don't know, right away I was like, cryogenics, because I want to talk about my favorite conspiracy theory that's not really true, but I love the idea of, and that has to do with Mr. Walt Disney, which I'm sure we'll get to later.
Yeah, we'll get to him.
So yeah.
Have you? So I assume based on the fact that you pitched the idea that you know vaguely about it.
Yeah, I mean, we all saw that episode of iCarly. That's
Hold on.
What?
I didn't. What?
The guy
where they're basically referencing Disney without saying that it's Disney.
Right. And they've got the Frozen guy. Yeah. And I know that celebrities like to freeze themselves when they die, just in case, and rich people, just in case we figure out how to not die. And you know what? Good on them, I guess. So let's chit chat about it. Yeah.
Well, I was going to say that now I've done some research that I would love to fill you guys in on. But Shiloh, what do you know? Do you know anything about cryogenics or anything?
Other than it's like freezing people, absolutely nothing. I'm a big old dummy when it comes to this. So
that's so surprising. I would have taken you for someone who was so into it.
Look, I know
Shiloh gives off big
cryogenic energy. Stan, I know, but hate to shock you guys. Hate to disappoint.
That is quite shocking. Well, so first I'm going to start off with what we say is cryogenics, and what is commonly known as cryogenics is not actually cryogenics. Cryogenics is the larger term for freezing things. So I guess in that sense, but in terms of freezing people, we'll get to it later. It falls under a different subcategory. So to start off with the bigger picture of cryogenics is the branches of engineering that involves the study of very low temperatures, which more low than normal people can get out, not like just a normal freezer. It's below 123 Kelvin. And if I had done a little bit of extra research, I would have figured out what that was in Fahrenheit. Let's see. Negative 238.27 Fahrenheit.
So a bit chilly.
A bit chilly is the perfect way to put it. A little bit frigid. It also is how to produce them and how the materials behave at those temperatures. So at the 13th IIR, which stands for, as you know, the International Institute of Refrigeration. I know you're a valued member.
Card carrying member.
Card carrying member of the International Institute of Refrigeration. And I'm sure that you were at the 13th IIR International Congress of Refrigeration.
You better believe it.
Of course.
Which was held in Washington,
lovely
D.C. in
buffet.
1971. I'm sure a very memorable time. The early
Right before
70s.
Watergate. Right before Watergate.
Yeah. So everyone was living large. The refrigeration world was booming.
Poppin'.
So at that International Congress of Refrigeration, the 13th one, I will say. Who knows how many have happened since? I'm sure COVID really hurt.
Yeah, they had to
the
do it over
Congress.
Zoom for a couple of years.
Yeah, they all just had to sit in front of their fridges and freezers and pretend to be cold. So at that Congress, they endorsed a universal definition of cryogenics and cryogenic, because obviously we know that people were really like, we need a universal definition.
That was the squeaky wheel. That was what needed to get done in Washington.
That was in 1971. They were like, guys, why isn't there a universal definition of cryogenics? They accepted the threshold of 120K or negative 153 Celsius to distinguish these terms from the conventional refrigeration.
Because like we're all just throwing that around.
Yeah.
It was getting crazy there. There were too
Yeah.
many definitions. It was like metric system, there's too many.
There's already still the fact that there's Kelvin, Celsius, Fahrenheit, and then within those, which one's too cold, which one's too warm. It was too much. They needed a universal definition, and they probably haven't even had to have a conference since, because what else is there to discover? That's it. They did it. They
Nailed it on the
cryogenics.
13th try.
They really did. So the definition of cryogenics is freezing things in a broad sense, but there are different sub layers to cryogenics, such as cryobiology, which is the branch of biology involving the study of the effects of low temperatures on organisms. Cryoconservation of animal genetic resources, the conservation of genetic materials with the intention of conserving a breed. Cryosurgery, the branch of surgery applying cryogenic temperatures to destroy and kill tissue like cancer cells. Cryoelectronics, the study of electronic phenomena at cryogenic temperatures. Examples include superconductivity and variable range hopping. Or finally,
What is variable range hopping, Gavin? You kind of skipped over that. What's that?
well, maybe we'll have to do another episode on cryoelectronics. Maybe that's not the point of today's episode. Finally, we come to what we're going to be talking about today, cryonics, which is cryopreserving humans and animals with the intention of future revival. Cryogenics is sometimes used to mean cryonics in popular culture and the press, but it is not the official thing. But it's used as a more broad thing, which we see a lot in, different science stuff, I assume. But so now to define, I'm not a scientist. Okay. Unfortunately,
okay.
I am not a part of the International Institute of Refrigeration. They declined my application. Cryonics, we've already talked about it, is the low temperature freezing, usually negative 196 Celsius, negative 320.8 Fahrenheit, or 77.1 Kelvin, and the storing of human remains with the speculative hope that resurrection may be possible in the future. Cryonics is regarded with skepticism. I wonder why. With the mainstream scientific community. It is generally viewed as a pseudoscience, and its practice has been characterized as quackery. I don't know why. We got a whole institute, international institute that can prove otherwise. And there are actually, we're only mainly going to be referencing one company, but like there are companies that are the only thing that they do. It's not like these are people who shoot they tell their neighbor before they die, hey, can you just stick me in my freezer after I die? Like there's companies that do the freezing and that's all they do.
What a racket. That's the business we got to get into.
I'm sure
Oh
it must
my
be a very
God.
successful business. It's just holding a lot of frozen bodies. They haven't brought
Yeah.
anybody back yet.
Exactly.
Just holding on. It's just a cold graveyard, I guess.
Well, is that even there? Is that they don't do that at all? Like the bringing back part is not their responsibility. They just have to keep the people frozen.
Well, that's not possible, Shyla. So they just haven't gotten around to it yet.
Well, like the research to do that, Chris.
Oh,
But we don't know how to bring people back in.
I think they were like, let's put you in an ice bath. Let's get you all cool.
we'll figure it out
We'll
later.
put you in a box. These will be like our children will need to figure this out. Like I think they're expecting it's
so
gonna
they
be a
really
while.
they're not doing
They're
research.
procrastinating, is what they're doing.
They're like, we still got time to figure this out. So you might ask, what are these procedures? So cryonic procedures can begin only after the quote patients are clinically and legally dead. So contrary to popular belief, you can't freeze someone while they're still alive. You might
Well, you
think,
can. It's just frowned upon.
you can. It's just there might be a legal action. You might think, oh, that's a weird thing to define. We've got some examples later. We'll get to
Okay.
it. Cryonics procedures may begin within minutes of death and use cryoprotectants to prevent ice formations during cryopreservation. It's a lot of just adding cryo to the beginning of normal words. It is, however, not possible for a corpse to be reanimated after undergoing vitrification, as this causes damage to the brain, including its neural circuits.
That's the only issue with why we can't reanimate.
Yeah, because then their brains get all silly. Their brains get all funky. Their neurons aren't computing. I wish you guys couldn't see the number. We're all following along on a script. Sorry to spoil. This isn't all just coming off the dome. I wish that I took out how many bodies have been cryopreserved so that you could guess. If you had to guess, aside from the fact that you've already now probably seen the number, like, how do you think that would have already done thousands? Do you think that they've done like 20? What would you have thought if you didn't now probably know?
I was expecting it to be pretty high. Not like crazy high, but like a couple thousand.
As was I.
Yeah. So as of 2014, which was almost 10 years ago, which is crazy to say and ridiculous to say. About 250 dead bodies had been cryopreserved in the United States, and 1,500 people had made arrangements for cryopreservation of their corpses. I don't have an updated number, but
at least a couple of those people must have died since then.
I'm sure. Also, even in 2014, when technology is just still progressing, and even some of the people that we talk about like die, I think as long ago as like the 60s, but like even in today's age, we don't know that it's ever going to work. So to think, hey, I'll trust this company to freeze me and maybe they'll bring me back. I mean, I guess it's no fault on the person they freeze, because if they don't bring them back, they were already dead anyway. So like, no fault to them.
I understand why they have to wait till people are dead not dead, they're dead, to do this process. But like medically, like as soon as you died, like doesn't your body start doing the dead shit? Like, like I don't know, like your blood stops. I don't know. I feel like it would make more sense if you really wanted this to work to be like, oh, I know I'm about to die. Freeze me now.
Yeah, I agree. That's how I would want to do it.
Yeah,
right.
That's fair. I mean, you do need to like give permission and like sign stuff,
right?
Sure.
Like beforehand. You got to give them permission, which I mean.
But you're talking from a legal standpoint. We're talking from a scientific standpoint.
That's fair.
It would be better to be frozen whilst alive.
Yeah.
Because then you never die.
Although I guess, well, no, I guess you would still die, right? Like you would just freeze to death.
Yeah.
I don't know.
This sounds hokey. I don't know if this is real.
This sounds like some quackery to me.
Really, this isn't super probable. You know what? You're just like critics, because critics argue that Economic reality means it is highly improbable that any cryonics corporation could continue in business long enough to take advantage of the claimed long-term benefits offered. Early attempts of cryonic preservations were performed in the 1960s and early 1970s, which ended in failure, with all but one of the companies going out of business and their stored corpses thawed and disposed of.
I'd be pissed. Can I say I'd be pissed if they, because then if what happens in 100 years if they do figure this out and your fucking corpse that you paid for is
It's a lot of
actually
money.
dead.
It is not a cheap thing. You got to.
Are you going to hit us with a number later?
Well, we can talk about costs now, and then we'll get into some notable people who have been preserved. We'll talk about Disney, and then we'll talk about some people who want to be preserved. So the one company that I get into some more incidences with them later, but kind of the big, I guess you could say, leading company, because there's not much competition, is Alcor Life Extension Foundation. They're like the biggest one. They were founded in 1972.
It sounds like an evil corporation in a Batman movie. Like, that doesn't sound real.
Yeah. The other strange thing is when you Google them, it says how many employees there are. Do you want to know how many employees there are? Guess how many employees this company has.
250?
I did just Google them.
8.
Also, they're a nonprofit?
What?
I guess. Yeah. Like, what are they? It's not like they're profiting. Like, I don't think it's
If they're not profiting, what are they doing? Because this isn't a charity.
No, but I think all the money is going into like keeping the whole thing running since the 70s. So the costs are due based on your age at sign up. But it can be, the membership dues are between $17 to $100 a month, which then it's $60 per year for each child family member. So that's like, you can also get families in on it, which we will get to families that wanted to do this. Also, the life insurance is $25 to $800. That doesn't seem right. $250,000 coverage for a person aged 25 to 50. Yeah, that you can like buy life insurance through other companies. I don't know. The numbers get confusing, but it depends also on how long you've been alive. But basically, this is to buy a membership. The
membership, like a post-death membership. If
Yeah.
you're late on your dues, do they just turn off the freezer you're in? Like, is that? It's not a one-time upfront.
I mean, if I were them, I would ask for it all up front.
I would too. Deaf people famously don't pay.
Like, I could understand that eventually at one point, the money that they paid might not cover the costs. But I think that they then should hope that at that point, either they've increased prices for new people, or maybe by that point the money runs out, then they figured it out. But here are the 4 main membership benefits.
Okay.
You got the team on standby. Medical teams are at your bedside, ready to start the process upon legal death. So you got them.
What
on
if
the
it's a
phone.
car crash?
Then they'll be ready.
Wow.
I mean, you might be a little mangled, but they can still freeze you. So standby.
Okay.
Then there's the cryopreservation, whole body or neuro cryopreservation performed at their facilities. I assume that means just their brain, I guess.
What would be the point at that point?
It's just a brain in a jar.
Yeah.
Maybe turn into a computer eventually, like an AI or something like that.
God.
The concept. You also get long-term care. So patients are kept in secure long-term cryogenic DWARs. I don't know if that's just supposed to say drawers.
Drawers?
There's only one R at the end. It's DEWARS.
Oh God, they can't spell drawers. That's not promising.
What is a DWARS?
I do like that I like that they call the people patients. There's something like weirdly endearing about that.
Yeah. So they're kept at a consistent -196.
No, there's nothing
Celsius.
endearing about it. Hold on, Shiloh. Because imagine going to a cemetery and the undertaker being like, look at all these patients. That's not
But
endearing.
that's different.
No, it's not.
It is. When you're in a cemetery, like you're done.
So
You
are these
said, "I'm good."
people.
No, but they haven't. They're like, they're waiting. They're waiting. They have their long-term care. They're being cared for in a
Okay.
medical facility. I don't know. It's kind of, there's something weirdly nice about it. I don't know how to
Endearing.
defend myself. I don't know.
I don't even know what to say. But the fourth thing was, it says possible revival. So all with the goal of your revival and reintegration into society.
That's a big asterisk. It is possible.
It is. If we had recorded this a few hours earlier, we could get them on the phone and call them.
But it's
to
after
ask.
hours for them now.
But it's after. They're based out of
So
Arizona.
they're not
because,
on
you know,
standby.
Arizona, the coldest place where you want your frozen bodies in the desert.
I would like you to scroll down to where there's a photo of a mannequin in ice cubes, but the ice cubes are those like reusable, like ones filled with water. And it is just the dummy covered in those. And I honest to God, I hope that is how they do it.
Pausing the dying process is what they say.
But it's just like Target brand reusable ice cubes.
Yeah. And I like modern science. They've got all the people just around something.
I love
Also
that.
the preserving life, that it's just like a low res picture of two people in front of a sunset on a beach.
Oh God.
Yeah.
I like the tubes though. They look fun, cozy.
Oh wait, they have an emergency 24-hour line.
Oh good.
Oh, that's probably like,
Emergency.
hey, someone just died. I need you to freeze them now. They are available.
Oh, God.
We could also tour for free.
Can we take a tour? Guys, I think we got to go to Arizona.
Oh, okay. Interesting. So here's why they picked Arizona. Because it is the area least likely to be struck by a natural disaster in the United States. So the least likely for earthquakes, hurricanes, tornadoes, and blizzards. So that's why they're in Scottsdale.
Okay, that makes sense. That's fair.
Okay.
See, they're taking care of their patients, Chris.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess.
I do have some numbers of patients. So I'd said earlier that like those numbers as of 2014. So I think some of those bodies, they weren't all at this one institution. I think it's just the biggest one.
Mhm.
So currently there is 201 patients. So I would assume that means the bodies that they have. 1,401 members.
Soon to be
So I assume
1,402.
soon. I assume that's the future people. And they've been doing it for now just over 50 years. So they
Good
just
for them.
celebrated 50 years because it was
Mazel.
1972 by Fred and Linda Chamberlain.
It's always Fred and Linda.
Fred is now cryopreserved at Alcor, but Linda still works there. So good for Linda.
Nice.
I'm sure the one thing, like, I guess she can't date now because in theory, eventually she'll be back with Fred.
That's true.
So
Now, do you think this is the company from Severance? I think it might be.
do you think that, I mean, they might have modeled it after any one of these companies.
I mean, the building, look, the building is, there's no windows.
Why do they need windows? They need it to be a cold environment.
I guess that's true. I don't know. It just looks sketchy. Oh, it's nice inside, though.
This would be such a strange company. Oh, there's more than 8 people who work there. That's such a lie because you go to their staff and there's like 12, a whole 12 people, not 8. But like, there's like older people and there's like a young woman is like their medical response director. So like,
Look at their CEO, though. He looks sketchy.
yeah, no, he is a super villain. Also, because look at, he's got like the popped collar,
Yeah.
like the white, like no tie suit. Like, look, he's like, he thinks he's Elon Musk.
And then if you go to the third row down there, that first one, Hugh Hickson Jr., he actually is cryogenically frozen. That's just a body that they keep around.
Yeah.
Linda looks nice.
Linda.
Also, her bio's kind of sad. Her mom and husband Fred are both preserved. and she was retired when he died, and then she came out of retirement to work at the facility. And it says, it is Linda's desire to be close to her family and do whatever she can to protect them and help bring them back into her life as soon as possible. That's kind
Oh,
of sad.
wait. That's actually. Oh,
Mm.
wow. Well,
Well, let's get back to making fun of these people
let's
because
get, I guess we got to get Linda on the phone. All right. So we've talked about Alcor, and when you know what, we might actually not want to visit Andor Hall when I tell you some of the stuff that Alcor has done to some of these people later.
oh god.
But so let's jam through some of these notable people that have been cryogenically
Okay.
frozen. The first one we're going to talk about is Dr. James Bedford, a psych professor, was a psych professor at the University of California. He was the first person to ever be cryogenically preserved. The choice to be preserved by freezing was entirely his. He even left money for a steel capsule and liquid nitrogen in his will. So when he died on January 12th, 1967, his family abided by his wishes. It was a big day in the cryonics community, and they still refer to January 12th as Bedford Day.
Oh, we just missed it.
Oh, Bedford was switched to a different tank in 1991, and it would appear that everything has held up thus far. So to once again reiterate, he died in 1967. Like 67, they put him in a new tank in 91. That was not recent. This was all like 67 is a little ways away. And in theory,
56 years ago.
he's still held up.
Yeah.
Granted, they might put the tank and they might not have held up. But
Bedford Day. I'm marking my calendar.
out of all of the people, he's one of the ones that it's like, I hope would make it, because let's say even that there's another like few hundred, like people who died in the past like 10 years, they understand what this modern life is. But the life difference between a dying man in 1967, I don't even know how old he was, to then, like, even if he came to present day right now, he would never be able to use an iPhone. He would
true.
never be able to use like any sort of technology.
It's like Brooks from Shawshank. Reintegration's tough, man.
Well, that's what then Alcor will help you with that reintegration.
Will they really? Wow.
I mean, if you're paying for the membership, I would hope it comes with some more perks. But you might think, oh, there's no way that people who want to freeze themselves to be alive in the future are vain in any way. They can't be. But shockingly, one of them was in the television industry. Who would have thunk? Not one of them. I think one of them. I don't know. I don't want to insult this guy. Who knows? Maybe he was a very nice guy. Dick Clare was in the television industry. He was a producer, actor, and writer who had a hand in the Mary Tyler Moore Show, the Bob Newhart Show, The Facts of Life, and Mama's Family. He was also interested in cryonics and was a member of the Cryonics Society of California. In 1988, he died of AIDS-related infections and was immediately put on ice, literally.
Wow.
So, to be semi-serious for a second, someone like him, I can understand being interested in it because I'm sure he died at a younger age.
Sure.
So I can understand wanting to be frozen if you didn't feel like you lived a full life. Also, the Cryonics Society of California, that implies the existence of 49 other cryonic societies in every other state. Everybody, find your local cryonic society and you can submit an application today. Moving right along, Peter Eckersley was an Australian computer scientist, computer security researcher, and activist. Shortly before his death, Eckersley was diagnosed with colon cancer. He sent a message to friends, quote, "If possible, please plasticize or vitrify my brain and leave it on a shelf somewhere with a plaque or durable sticky note that says, 'Scan me.'" See, he had a sense of humor. Eckersley died on September 2nd, 2022.
Oh, wow.
In
Recent.
San Francisco
Oh.
of complications from cancer treatment. His brain was preserved by a cryonics organization soon after. So, I mean, that was not that long ago.
Yeah. Few months.
And who knows how his, like, the developments in cryonics between the 60s and now.
Yeah.
But it's also different. Well, I guess the reason he probably just said for his brain, them to just take his brain, was because then his body had cancer. But also interesting that he wasn't like, hey, freeze the whole thing, and then maybe they'll have come up with a cancer cure by the time they're unfreezing him. I would assume would be the goal. Robert Ettinger, an American academic, was known as the father of cryogenics because of the impact of his 1962 book, The Prospect of Immortality. Ettinger founded the Cryonics Institute and the related Immortalitist Society, and until 2003 served as the group's president. When Ettinger died from natural causes, his body was cryopreserved. His first and second wife had both been cryopreserved after their deaths, along with his mother.
It's gonna be quite the family reunion when they figure it out.
Drama. Oh my God. His first wife is gonna wake up and be pissed.
Who is this bitch?
Wow.
Do you think first they're gonna wake him up, and it's like, you know, when you wake
Pick
up
one.
from like a long nap that you're a little groggy and stuff, he's gonna be groggy, and they're gonna be like, Robert, which one do you want us to wake up? The first or the second one?
No. I want them to wake the wives up first so that when he wakes up, they're already there and they are waiting for the confrontation.
And they're both just in the room, and then he's like, oh, hello.
And then their mother-in-law's there too.
Yeah, and then they can all just shit on him for another 100 years, and then they're like, you know what? No. We don't need to unfreeze him yet. Keep him on ice.
Make him wait.
Yeah. Then they all talk bond, big girl group, and then they're like, all right, bring Robert out. Get him out here. Let's see what he has to say. What did he think was going to happen? What did he think that they'd come out and he'd be like, my two loves, ladies. Now that all three of us are here. What did he think was that the outcome was going to be? Really?
A cold threesome.
You'd be like, guys, you should be thanking me. I brought you back to life. You would not even be here without me. Excellent. So, the father of cryogenics, everybody. Thomas K. Donaldson, a mathematician, had ideas about death that were even stranger than cryonics. He believed that even though people were dead, their brains continued to exist and have functionality, and we just don't have the technology to access it yet. Very sci-fi, like that would be a good movie. That's like a great concept. Probably not true, but a great concept. Donaldson died in 2006, and it is assumed to have been cryogenically preserved. He seems to be pretty confident that he would be back someday. In a 1982 interview, when asked for a piece of wisdom to pass on to cryonicists, he said, I'm sure that any profound piece of wisdom I might have would seem rather stupid in 300 years. So I think it would be better for me to say nothing so I don't feel ashamed of myself in 300 years.
We love a self-aware king who knows when to shut the fuck up, because good for him. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're telling me that Dr. James Bedford in 1967, the first guy to be cryogenically frozen, wasn't like, oh yeah, this is how it's gonna go. They had to put him in another tank. He didn't know what he's talking about. Very fair to assume that Thomas isn't gonna know what he's talking about. Now this next fellow that I will talk about, he really had a vision of the future. He goes by FM 2030, written down FM 2030.
Like R2-D2.
Yeah, like a robot. He was born. I just have to say this. I don't speak Belgium. Is Belgium a language?
Belgian? I think they speak like French there.
Yeah, or Dutch or something. Whatever they speak in Belgium, I don't speak it. He was born Fredium M. Ifendiari. So I understand why he changed the name. He was a Belgian author, transhumanist philosopher, and a futurist. In 1970, after publishing his book Optimism 1, FM started going by FM 2030 for two main reasons. Firstly, to reflect the hope and belief that he would live to celebrate his 100th birthday in 2030, which is not far away.
No.
Like he said that in the 70s. Secondly, and more importantly, to break free of the widespread practice of naming conventions that he saw rooted in a collectivist mentality and existing only as a relic of humankind's tribalistic past. He legally changed his name in 1988. In his own words, conventional names define a person's past, ancestry, ethnicity, nationality, religion. I am not who I was 10 years ago, and certainly not who I will be in 20 years. The name 2030 reflects my conviction that the years around 2030 will be a magical time. In 2030, we will be ageless, and everyone will have an excellent chance to live forever. 2030 is a dream and a goal.
I don't know about that.
Okay. Wow.
This
Two
is why
things.
Thomas didn't say anything. Because he knew it was
He knew
not going to
better.
age well.
He knew better. Two things. He would have loved Elon Musk and his little robot baby names. Also, this thing about like, oh, our name defines our past, our ancestry, and our. This sounds like something a white man would say.
Yeah.
And it's just.
If I had to go out on a limb, I'd guess the guy from Belgium is white.
Upsetting.
He's going to be pretty disappointed when he wakes up in 7 years and is like, oh, we still kept names? Oh, that's embarrassing. Made a big deal out of this. Well, actually, it'd be even more embarrassing. If they don't wake him up in 7 years, now all of a sudden it's like, whoa, we flew past. Guys, it was in the name. You were supposed to wake me up in 2030. You know what? That probably won't be the biggest thing that he's shocked by if he were to wake up at all. I think the biggest thing would probably be the fact that he woke up. So this next person, I recommend not reading ahead. Just listen to the words, because this is probably the craziest instance. So we talked at length about Alcor.
Sure.
The Alcor Life Extension Foundation earlier. So we're going to talk about Dora Kent. But to learn about Dora Kent, we first need to introduce her son, Saul. Saul was a board member of the Alcor Life Extension Foundation, which is where most people were frozen. As we said, they were stored in the Alcor facilities. In 1987, at the age of 84, Dora Kent, Saul's mother, came down with a fatal case of pneumonia and was unable to recover. When it looked like death was upon her, she was brought to the Alcor facilities so they could freeze her when she died. And they did, with no doctor present. When a coroner later inspected her headless body, Alcor removed the head for scientific reasons. He first agreed with the pneumonia assessment and then reversed his decision and said that he thought she was murdered. Certain metabolities found in her body led him to believe that she was alive when they started to freeze her. He demanded Dora's head for further testing, and Alcor refused to produce it. Some of the Alcor members were arrested, but nothing came out of it, and no one was ever charged with anything.
Wow.
So maybe my previous statement about like maybe we should freeze people before they're actually dead, I'm going to take that back real quick.
Yeah, I mean, she was 84.
No, that doesn't make it better.
She had pneumonia.
No, to make it okay.
I do also like the idea that they brought a coroner over to a headless body, and his first thought was, yeah, it was the pneumonia. It was.
That was the first of all, why'd they feel the need to bring a coroner? Coroners are supposed to find the cause of death. I think they could figure it out without the coroner.
I also like the fact that they were like, no, we're not going to give you her head. And it was just fine. Like they couldn't there was no legal process to be like, no, you have to give them her head. It was just like, no, we're going to keep it. The
coroner was like, we need this for further testing to figure out what happened. And Alcor was like, no, that's ours. We can't take it out of the cage.
Well, I guess that kind of makes sense, actually. Because then they'd have to unfreeze it. So in a weird way,
they're not wrong.
You heard it here first, folks. Gavin thinks Alcor is in the right.
Why don't we ask them when we call them?
Oh, yeah. I'm sure that'll go over swell.
Just say, we'd like to talk to you about Dora Kent. And they'd hang up immediately. So speaking of baseball players, you'd think, again, we're talking about people who think that the rest of the world deserves them. I am not a big baseball person, if you couldn't guess at this point. But apparently this is a big baseball player, Ted Williams. I had not heard of him, but upon Googling, he was a big deal. So Ted Williams was an American professional baseball player and manager. He played his entire 19-year MLB career primarily as a left fielder for the Boston Red Sox from 1939 to 1960. His career was interrupted by military service during World War II and the Korean War. Now, here is where we get into a little kerfuffle, we could say, with Ted Williams.
Okay.
This is a good example, and this is the last prominent example we'll be talking about, aside from Disney and future people. This is why they really want it in writing before you die of what they should choose to do. And we're gonna have to go over this a few times to figure out who was right and who was wrong. Though his will stated his desire to be cremated and his ashes scattered in the Florida Keys, William's son, John Henry Williams, was adamant that his father wanted to be preserved to be brought back in the future and wanted the whole family to follow suit so they could be reunited when technology and medicine made it possible. The matter was taken to court. John Henry produced a family pact signed on a cocktail napkin. After much debate over authenticity, laboratory analysis proved that the signature was genuine and the napkin pact was allowed and Ted was frozen.
I mean, that seems pretty straightforward. If the cocktail napkin was legit, yeah, sure.
Yeah. So basically, in his will, it said he wanted to be cremated. And then at some point, when he was old, when he was with his family, he's like, hey guys, we should all get frozen and stuff. Like, let's all agree on this, like hands in. And then he's the first one to go and everybody's like, bail. And it was actually his daughter who was like, no, we should do what's in the will. And then the son was like, no, like it was a family pact. We all have to do this, guys. Come on, we're all going to do this. And so shockingly, but not shockingly, in 2004, Ted's son, John Henry, stayed true to his word. Despite a bone marrow transplant from his sister, John Henry died of leukemia on March 6, 2004, and joined his dad at Alcor in Scottsdale, Arizona. So he stuck to his word. All right. So now we're going to talk about Walt Disney. So just like the iCarly episode that Chris referenced at the beginning of the episode, it's pretty commonplace. There's rumors that Walt Disney's head is frozen, right? You guys heard of that?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Walt Disney was one of the first of the famous to express interest in cryogenically freezing his body after death. It was said by Bob Nelson in an interview with the Los Angeles Times that Disney had expressed interest in it numerous times. He asked questions in great detail, though failed to commit. His body was cremated, but rumors from diehard Disney fans and the internet swarmed with wonder for years. Due to his bad habit of smoking about 3 packs of cigarettes a day, Disney passed away on December 15th, 1966 from lung cancer that had spread a mere 2 weeks before the first man was frozen.
Bad timing.
Yeah.
My favorite little tidbit with this, because it's most people agree it's kind of fake, you know.
Yeah.
My favorite tidbit about this is the theories that the reason that the movie with Anna and Elsa was called Frozen was so that people, when they Googled Walt Disney Frozen, would stop getting articles about Disney being frozen and get the movie instead. And in my heart, I want that to be true. And I think kind of probably part of it is like when they were naming it, like Frozen, perfect. Nailed it.
Well, I think I saw somewhere that originally it was supposed to be called like the Ice Princess or the Ice Queen,
like
or like that there was some other type of name. So I wonder if they had come up with another name, and then while they're in the room, someone was like, "Oh, you know how we can solve 2 problems at once? This is how we do it."
Killing birds with stones.
Yeah. So it is, I would say, a pretty big coincidence though that he died like 2 weeks before the other guy was frozen. That's
Maybe he was murdered
pretty
like
close.
Dora, though. You know.
Yeah, they cut off Walt Disney's head and cremated the rest of his body and froze his head. I don't know if it'd be for the best if they brought Walt Disney back, though.
Yeah.
Because, he was
Bit of an anti-Semite.
bit of an anti-Semite. It was a little racist.
A little dicey Walt.
Also, he smoked 3 packs of cigarettes a day, so they gotta get him new lungs. His skin was probably all like leathery. Yeah. I think you know what? I think Disney the company is doing just fine without him. I think they're gonna be okay.
Who they should freeze? Bobby Iger. Freeze that guy.
Bobby.
Obviously they can't do anything without him. He thought he was free, and then they bring it back in. So to round out the episode, we've been having a lot of fun here. There's 6 people that I'm going to talk about that are pretty notable people who are currently living, who have expressed wanting to be cryogenically preserved. Now, if I were to tell you that the first person is Seth MacFarlane, how would you react to that?
Fine.
You're okay with that?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. I'm okay with him coming back later. That's all right.
Yeah. It's out of all the people in that realm of comedians and people in television and entertainment, he was definitely I was a little taken aback by it. Also because
he seems like a smart guy. The more I think about it.
He does, but also then what? We're gonna get another Family Guy show in 100 years, and then how many more can he do?
Have you ever heard him sing? He's a pretty good singer.
He was.
I was
pretty
just
good.
gonna say,
Of the mouse.
Maybe he's just trying to preserve the talent.
Yeah,
there's a lot of talent in that man's body.
There is.
True. They might completely. At this point, they can phase out Family Guy because people are only watching it on TikTok. You see those.
My TikTok has been flooded with them lately. I have
never
never watched a full episode of it, but that is all my TikTok is right now, is the weird games underneath the Family Guy clips.
Subway Surfer.
It's always the Subway Surfer. There's
one with katanas.
Cutting through it.
Yeah.
You know what's even more annoying? Now I'm going to need to find an example of all this, and then we'll put it into a clip. And then now I got to find it because people who aren't on TikTok are going to be like,
and
what?
now they're getting meta too. The Family Guy clips are referencing the games. What is happening? Anyway, Seth MacFarlane.
Seth MacFarlane, actor and cartoonist, best known for his work on Family Guy, American Dad, and Ted, has expressed interest in human cryopreservation. In an interview with Larry King in 2012, MacFarlane said that he shared King's desire to be cryopreserved to have a longer life because I also just glanced over that. Larry King also wants to be preserved.
Well, he died a couple years ago.
Yeah,
he did.
So is he frozen?
I don't think ended up being frozen.
No follow through with this guy.
Bummer.
Big bum. He probably heard about Alcor stuff and was like,
they couldn't freeze his suspenders with him, and they.
But he was like, it's not worth it. Also, who knows if it was just in an interview, Larry King was like, oh, it'd be cool to be frozen. And Seth MacFarlane was like, me too. Let's do it together.
That seems pretty likely.
I would assume that's how it went. Another surprising name, Paris Hilton.
That's not surprising at all. What do you mean?
I want her to be frozen. I want them to bring her back. We need her in the future.
Well, because then she can bring back those the 2000s fashion once again.
Juicy couture.
Just 100 years from now, because it always comes back.
It's cyclical.
Yeah. They'll have to unfreeze her when that fashion is coming back around. You can't unfreeze her when it's
now
80s fashion or something.
Do you think they'll do the King Tut thing where they will ship Paris Hilton's body around to museums
and show it around
this
the
is
world?
what will look like in 2003?
This is what socialites and business women were like back in the 2000s. So Paris Hilton, American socialite and businesswoman, said publicly in 2007 that she wants to leave a mark on the world, which she has, and believes that Cryonics offers her the chance to do that. At the time of the interview, she allegedly invested in Cryonics Institute. In addition, she has signed 2 of her dogs up for the service, her Chihuahua Tinkerbell and her Yorkshire Terrier Cinderella.
Jesus.
I didn't know her
Yeah.
dog's names until just now.
I like that they're themed. That's fun.
Yeah. Although, if this happened in 2007,
Those dogs are probably
is-
frozen.
this is the math. I would hope.
Let's find out.
I mean, if ranking wise, alive would be at the top. Unlikely. And then I guess frozen, and then in the ground, I guess, is the bottom option.
Yeah, some pet cemetery in Burbank or something. Yeah.
Yeah. Or she just gets a new Chihuahua that's like an identical, or maybe they like, you know how they clone the sheep? She just constantly clones her like Chihuahua.
Okay, wait. I have some sad news.
Oh no.
Tinkerbell, at least, is in fact no longer with us. And it might be because it got snatched by a hungry coyote in the Hollywood Hills in 2014. 2015, I'm sorry.
All right, so I have a feeling Tinkerbell was not frozen.
That was at the bottom of the rank.
That was
by
like,
Coyote.
yeah.
Oh my god. That was the plot twist of the century right there.
Well, then we can move right along. Steve Aoki, electric dance music DJ, record producer, and executive, set up the Aoki Foundation, which works to increase awareness around brain health and new discoveries in longevity and age reversal. So already, that's great. Like, that's no
Yes.
pseudosciences there. That's like progressive. The foundation also invested in brain preservation and funds anti-aging technology. All right, we're teetering on pseudo. He has expressed that he wishes to be cryopreserved along with his family.
So another one that checks out. Like, I buy it that
All
Steve
right.
Aoki would.
Yeah, it makes
Yeah.
sense. But because, I mean, if there's this many DJs now, how many DJs do you think there's going to be in 100 years?
Multiply like bunnies.
Yeah, they have been. So do we really need more DJs in the future? Every single sci-fi movie, the future is already like a like EDM, like shiny, like techno world. Although then maybe he'll be able to thrive there.
It's true.
Maybe it's like releasing a dog into a field, that it's like, here, just like run. This is where you are meant to be. He's ahead of his time. The fun part about this section is all these people, they're still alive. So it's like, okay, like good luck with that to them, I guess. Ray Kurzweil is an American author, inventor, and futurist with some notable literature on the topic of artificial intelligence, which is a very real thing now. I feel like AI in the past like year is like exponentially is like advancing. Aware of the potential technological developments that may come over the next decades, he wants to know how it will change our lives and experience it for himself. He has signed himself up for human cryopreservation with Alcor.
I keep thinking you're saying Al Gore, and it's throwing me off every time.
Al Gore should create a rival cryopreservation foundation
Called Al Gore.
because then people will be Googling Alcor, see Al Gore, and be like, that's probably the one, right?
Yeah.
I saw a TikTok the other day that was like, when there used to be like collect calls on like payphones, they ask like what company you want to do the call through. And so then most people would say AT&T, but then people would be like, I don't know, or like, I don't care. And so then companies would make subsidiaries called I don't know and I don't care, and like common phrases, so that people say, I don't care, it actually then goes to a company. And then I think it was like KNTT or something, like this other company ended up making like millions of dollars just because they made subsidiaries that people ended up going through. So that's exactly what Al Gore can do with Alcor, is cheat them out of business.
Yeah.
Although I guess he needs to also, you know, what if he is just the one that's on standby? So you're on your dying breath and all of a sudden you're like, why is Al Gore here? What's going on? Al Gore? Oh,
It's just
no.
Al Gore and a couple of freezers. That's all
Yeah.
it is.
He's got like a cooler and he's like, all right, let's get this over with. And he's like, wait, I'm not dead. I'm not dead yet. Could be a thriving business for him when whatever he's doing now doesn't work out. And second to last, Ralph Merkel a computer scientist who made significant developments in cryptography with the invention of Merkle's puzzles and cryptographic hashing, is now a speaker and researcher in cryonics. He is currently on the Alcor board of directors and the scientific advisory board. In addition, he has also signed up to be cryopreserved with them in the future.
I would hope everybody on that board is signed up. If one of them isn't, I'd be like, what's your deal? Why are you holding out? So I would hope so.
That would be a little suspicious. I would also hate to be like the young marketing director on the team, where then you join because you need a job, and this company's existed since the 70s, and then they're like, you need to sign up to be cryogenically preserved, and like all these old people being like, you have to be frozen and we will bring you back. Like, it's got to be a menacing first
and then
day.
they have to go home and explain that to their spouse. Be like, look, I know we have those grave plots, but
yeah, they're like, oh, so they cover dental and vision. They also want me to be frozen after I die.
And Al Gore's gonna be there. It's gonna.
There's also a 401k, and there's like, whoa, wait, go back. and who else is gonna be? Al Gore's on standby. What? Yeah, no, you're totally right. Finally, the last person we're going to talk about, Peter Thiel, the co-founder of PayPal, has already invested heavily in anti-aging and longevity science foundations. In 2009, he invested millions of dollars into the SENS Research Foundation, a nonprofit organization that aims to eventually cure the disease of aging. Thiel believes that we will see huge technological advancements over the course of the 21st century, and that he could benefit from them by being cryopreserved. Fucking millionaires.
Ridiculous.
I'm surprised that Elon Musk hasn't announced that he wants to be
thinking the
cryogenically
same
preserved.
thing. Yeah. Or Bezos, one of them, they're gonna do it.
No, they don't even need to announce it because I'm sure they already have it set up. There's no way Jeff Bezos doesn't have. There's no way he hasn't thought about it.
Yeah.
I'm
for
sure
sure
that he's thought about it. But, and also, I mean, he's probably not thinking about it right now because he's like, I'm going to live a long life. Isn't he like ripped? Wasn't there like a picture of him on a boat? And it was like, yo, why is Jeff Bezos jacked?
Yeah, he's going through a midlife crisis. He just got divorced.
Yeah, after the divorce, that then he was like, I'm going to get jacked. I'm going to get cryogenically preserved. Like,
that'll show her.
I'm going to outlive her, and then I'll spit on her grave when it's 100 years from now. And everyone's like, who's that weird bald guy? And no one's been in a graveyard in 300 years. Who's that weird bald guy? We're all just brains and floating like liquid boxes in glass jars. Who's that guy with a body? Yeah. I bet Joe Rogan also has thought about it. Who are some other people that you think have thought about cryonics preservation?
Chris Pratt.
Oh, for sure. He's got to be in every reboot of every series.
Yeah, like Chris Pratt or like Tom Cruise, I feel like.
Yeah. Oh, Tom Cruise for sure.
Oh, I'm sure, especially with the Scientology. I'm sure they're all ready to get on that spaceship or whatever.
I feel like any, like, I don't know, man with a big ego has thought about it.
All right, I'll say it. Trump. We were all thinking it. He for sure has thought about it.
True. I mean, I don't know if he has the money for it anymore. He should have, unless what if he already invested in it? Like, what if that's the one? Well, also, actually, if he invested in it, people will be like, oh, ha, 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 another like terrible investment on Trump. And then he's like, just wait, like, it'll pay off. And then, like, when they bring him back, he's like, who's laughing now?
Look at those losers.
Look at all those losers. They're dead. They're in the ground. And I'm here. They're like, you're still broke. Like, inflation has ruined you. You didn't invest anything before you die. And he's like, oh no. Did it, and then he cryogenically freezes his father so that he can get a daddy. I need another $1 million. And they're like, $1 million is just a penny now. It doesn't mean anything. What a world the future will be. What year do you think that we'd be even remotely close to being able to wake these people up?
2227. I think we got at least 200 years. Like, that's a lot of science. You know what I mean? To bring back people from the dead.
I don't even know if the bringing people back part would be the hardest part. It's more of like getting over the anti-aging stuff, because bringing somebody back from the dead, they probably just need to hook him up to a machine and get the neurons
Just
firing and a
jumpstart
heart
him?
pump. Yeah, just like jumpstart him with a car battery. But the hardest part is that you'll bring them back and they'll already be old, or they might still have
That's
like
true.
cancer
Right.
or AIDS. So I think first we need to cure those. And
Now,
then
yeah, is it on a
bring 'em back.
case by case basis? Like when we cure cancer, we bring back all the cancer people, or are we doing them all in one shot?
That could also be a lot of people at once. Like that could be a
A
busy
lot of
week.
paperwork. A lot of paperwork.
Yeah.
There must be something where you have to say like, okay, this is like the case in which I want to be brought back.
Yeah.
if
And then do you
can.
get Social Security forever?
Yeah. Or do they just do they invest it? Like I would hope, like I guess that also has to be a part of the paperwork.
Yeah.
But even then, like what if
What if they won that Publishers Clearinghouse like $5,000 a week for life sweepstake, and then they're like alive again? Do they just get it forever?
I guess. I know that we glossed over the legality of everything a little bit earlier, but if somebody like FM 2030, where he said that he wanted to be brought back in 2030, like legally, if they don't bring him back in 2030 and they 100 years from them, could he sue them because they didn't do that? And like scenarios like that, like if I was a person who did this, I would not want to give a year. I'd be like, hey, like leave it up to the professionals. Don't trust me. I'm just some idiot from 100 years ago. What do I know about technology?
Was he the one who had the wherewithal to not give advice? No, he was the one who gave all the advice.
He had a lot to
spoke
say.
his mind. I think Thomas didn't say anything. Thomas Donaldson.
Yeah.
Yeah. He died in 2006. So that's not even as long ago.
Yeah.
FM 2030, it was in he died in 2000. So again, he thought, hey, 30 years from now, like bring me
That
back.
man was an optimist.
Yeah.
He really was. Allegedly he was an Olympic athlete. Should I do more
Allegedly.
deep diving? Well, it says Olympic athlete. He represented Iran as a basketball player and wrestler at the 1948 Olympic Games in London.
Wow.
Wait, I thought he was Belgian.
He was born in Brussels.
And he was 18 when that happened? If he was
he was born in 1930.
Wild.
Something's not adding up.
No.
I'm confused.
He was 18. He was playing for Iran, which I didn't even realize Iran was like.
Oh, you know what? It was probably colonized, so they were probably sending their people over there. That's probably what it was.
That's a fair point. But the fact that he was a basketball player and a wrestler, I feel like you need very different builds.
Pick one.
It's like the short king and the tall king. So like, I wonder how tall he was.
Average.
He was Iranian. This is nationality, Iranian American. He was neither of those. Like, he was born in Belgium.
Wild.
Interesting.
Oh, I think one of his parents was an Iranian diplomat. I'm not going to even pronounce their name because it's a lot. What a life. You know what? I do hope he gets brought back. I've got a few questions I'd like to ask FM 2030 about his life, if he can remember.
Yeah.
To him, it'll be like yesterday.
Also, I'm sorry I called him a white man then.
Bro, never judge a book by its cover. Never judge a person by their name.
Or
judge
their
them
number.
by their face. Judge them by what they look like and what descent their parents were. I guess that's the lesson, the big takeaway.
If this was something that did work, would either of you want to be frozen?
I'm all set.
I think it depends on how many other people are doing it. You know, I feel like I'd be a sheep maybe. If enough other people were doing it.
If it works, then like I guess, maybe there's a bunch of people doing it. Like this is with the assumption that like you die at some point, they freeze you, but like we know we'll be able to bring you back in like X amount of years.
If they bring me back and it sucks, I can be like, I don't need the anti-aging meds anymore. Like I'm good. But also, when they bring these people back, first of all, there's already too many people right now. I don't think anybody's in a rush to be like.
There's not many.
The 250 people won't make that much of a difference.
That's a good point. But even still, imagine
it's in the margin of error anyway. We're fine.
Yeah.
With all the rich people that we have nowadays and like the people that could still sign up for this in our lifetime
Yeah.
could raise pretty quickly,
Mm.
exponentially over time. But I would consider it. The thing is, just like everything else in society, it's just going to be rich people doing it, and then it's going to be the rich people are the ones persevering, and then it's the rich people and they'll make it.
Yeah.
But with inflation, maybe they won't be as rich in the future. Elon Musk will wake up in the future and everyone will be like, we remember him as like running Twitter into the ground, and the guy who pretended to run Tesla because he bought it. And then it's like, we invented being able to bring you back. Like, you are nothing compared to everyone else. Would you do it, Shyla?
I don't think so. I'm good.
Yeah.
It's not that sick here.
Well, that's why it could be better
Right.
later.
Yeah.
But
I
also,
don't
with the rate of how warm it is outside, with the rate of how warm this winter is, we're not
In
going to make it to this,
Scottsdale? Like, get out of here.
especially in
yeah,
Scottsdale.
absolutely. If I'm waking up in Arizona, no.
Yeah, that's where I'm drawing the line. That's
Also, I feel like the concept of reintegrating someone into society that they have, like, if it's been like 100 years, for example, everyone you know and love is gone.
Yeah.
And most
except for the
of
few people,
comforts of
unless you
who have
like
been
bring
first,
your
right.
first and second wives.
right.
and your mother.
Then you got some company, but
Yeah.
like your home is gone. The places that you found comforting and whatever familiar are gone. If you're like me and you live in a place that's going to be underwater in X amount of years, like that just sounds really sad.
Yeah.
I
You
don't
know,
wanna do
make
that.
some good
True.
points.
Also, I mean, I was joking about it earlier, but like Dr. James Bedford from 1967, there's no way, even if you give him another 100 years, that he could understand like iPhones and technology. So you're telling us that like we could even fathom technology 100 years from now or less? Like that, I'd be like, then we would understand why like the older generation is like, I don't want to understand how it works. Like, I don't even want to try. That would be us.
Not even just like technology, but I mean 67, you know, I don't know. Society is very different. Like that man was, you know, who knows what problematic views he had. Like
True.
those things will also be hard for people to understand. I just,
Well, also, he was an old man. Like, he was an old
Right.
dying man by 67. He was born in 1893. So do that
Ooh.
math.
Jesus.
Like, if then he was, what, 74? I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, that like 74-year-old man coming back. Yeah.
It's been fun.
Yeah.
Chit-chatting about frozen dead people and soon to be frozen dead people.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely puts a little bit of, I don't want to say an expiration date, but like I think one thing that we can benefit from is not knowing what happens after we die. But then all the people that we just talked about, like Seth MacFarlane, Paris Hilton, if it's like, how do you think that would change your life if you're like, oh, it doesn't matter, like however I die, they'll bring me back anyway? Like, is it reckless, or is it like we got to be careful, because then what if something doesn't age well after you die? Then it's like you come back and everybody hates you. So do you think they'd live more carefully or be a little bit more carefree?
I don't think people are some people aren't capable of living more carefully, so I think no.
Yeah, I would assume more carefree or the same.
Yeah.
I would probably live the same if I knew I was gonna be brought back. Like, it wouldn't make me want to die sooner. It wouldn't make me be more reckless to potentially die sooner, because then what if they do never end up bringing you back? Like, this could still be the only chance. So that's cryonics, or as the masses call it, cryogenics, which now people know isn't correct. But for another great week of the Dark Archive, I'm Gavin.
I'm Chris.
And I'm Shyla.
Keep it dark. This podcast is produced and engineered by Gavin Berger with High Tops Media. The Dark Archive is co-hosted by Gavin Berger, Julia Siegel, Chris Massarelli, and Shaila Jayasinghe. Our theme music is composed by Jeffrey Taylor. You can rate and review The Dark Archive on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and check out more episodes of The Dark Archive available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. And be sure to follow us on Instagram at The Dark Archive Podcast and on TikTok at The Dark Archive, and see more of our content with High Tops Media on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at High Tops Media.